Welcome to Enlightened Business Radio.
It's about making money, contributing to the world, and creating more freedom, meaning, and love in your life.
The show starts now.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. Max Simon here. Welcome to Enlightened Business Radio. This is our new radio show that is all about addressing the questions in business and even in life that you're oftentimes dying to know but afraid to ask. Now, a few things before we get started. Again, you can get access to the show and also to the dialogue and the ability to comment on enlightenedbusinessradio.com. When you go to that website, enlightenedbusinessradio.com, and you enter your name and email, you'll get access to a page that has the ability to stream this show live when we are live, as well as to post your comments and questions, which I check, and when Jeffrey Van Dyke is here with me, we check throughout the show. As well as you can get access to the archives, where we publish these radio shows for free on iTunes. And in fact, I'll say this before we dive in today. For those of you that do not know this, it's my birthday coming up very soon in the next week or so. And what I'm asking for, besides your great wishes, is actually to go to iTunes, to look up Enlightened Business Radio on iTunes. And again, you can get there through the enlightenedbusinessradio.com website. And, get the episodes, download them, enjoy them, and then most specifically leave your comment or your rating on iTunes. That really helps us out if you're enjoying these shows to go leave a positive 5-star rating on iTunes. So if you're willing to give me a birthday present in exchange for us delivering these shows for you, we would be very grateful. I would be very grateful. It would make me very happy. So welcome to the show. And today, Jeffrey Van Dyke, my co-partner, is not here with me today. It's actually, it was just his birthday as well. So this can be a present to both of us for you to go give us a positive comment. But he's out frolicking with his family. And today's theme is, what is it that is really holding you back in your business? And I don't mean, just like, oh, I'm afraid, or, oh, it's money, or, oh, it's the fact that I don't have the right strategy. That stuff might be holding you back. It's very possible. But I'm talking about what's really holding you back. I'm talking about what's really going on underneath the surface that you are likely not even aware of. That's the tricky part. The stuff that you're likely not even aware of that's holding you back. And what we want to do today is not only have a real raw dialogue about that. Some of those things I think will be incredibly interesting for you to hear what's really going on. But then also, we're having a little bit of technical challenge, but I am hoping that we can bring on at least one, potentially 2 or 3 members of the tribe to have a dialogue about some of these things, to see in real world, real life, how to uncover what's really holding you back. Now, why do I keep saying it this way, of uncovering and you're not really aware of it? And it's because here's the interesting thing. Most of the time, day in and day out, we're, asking questions like, how do I grow my business? How do I make more money? Or we're saying things like, I don't know what to do. Other people are more successful than me. Or I'm not figuring this out. It's not going to work. And we might think that that's the reason why we are not achieving the results we want. But the reality is, there's something happening underneath all of that dialogue and all underneath that conversation that's fueling your life and your business and your desire to be successful that most people are not even aware of. And I've been a meditator for a long time, and it's only recently through some of the work I've done, whether it's through different seminars or different teachers and mentors, that I've gotten to a place of unveiling what's really been holding me back. So we'll start there so you can understand this is not something I'm separate from or above or below. This is something that's been very clear for me. And you see, what's become really apparent to me recently is that, throughout life, and particularly when we're young, especially as children, we have experiences with our parents. We have experiences when we're growing up, and oftentimes before we're even kind of our own independent beings. And when we're this young, we have these experiences that are either traumatic or even useful, usually traumatic though, quite frankly. And somewhere at that point, we make a decision. And those decisions are things like, I am never going to stop pushing hard. Or we make the decision, I am always going to be that person that works harder than everyone else. Or you make that decision, like myself, the decision I made, which I only recently became aware of, might sound kind of funny to all of you now, is I made the decision that I always have to stand out. I always have to be the person that stands out. And where did I make that decision? Well, because twofold. One, my father growing up was very busy and very always on the road and always speaking and training. And he was very, very effective in the world. And of course, in a lot of ways, that's a beautiful thing. But what he wasn't was very present when I was at home. And when he was with me at home, what was often happening is he was being very critical. I wasn't doing my homework the right way. I wasn't getting good enough grades. I wasn't something like that. And, some cases were harsher than others, but as an adult, you look back on those experiences and you think, well, of course, that's what you do when you're a parent. You talk to your child about being better and you talk to your whatever. And as an adult, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But recently, I've been doing some work to experience what it was like when I was a little kid, what it was like when I was young to have those experiences. And when I was young, I took it very personally. I took it as a deep insult on my sense of self and my identity. And I made this unconscious decision very early on that whatever I did, I would always make sure that I stood out because I wasn't standing out when I was at home. And of course, on the flip side, I was watching my father stand out, watching my father, be this person that always stood out. And I said, well, I'm not that right now, and so I'm going to become that. And it's both modeling what your parents have done, but it's also running away from this pain and this feeling of hurt that we often had when we were little kids. And what I've realized recently, and especially in the mentorship and the work that I've been doing with people, is that at some way, shape, or form, the adult that we are today is always doing one of two things. Either it's overcompensating for some hurt that we had early on, something that felt really painful when we were young, or it is trying to model or be a representative of what we thought was a positive role model from our parents. So right now, even as I'm saying this, let's make it really personal to you. I want you to just look at, for a moment, what's the right way of saying this? I want you to look at the way in which you operate. So look at how hard you work. Look at what you think around money. Look at how you look at yourself in contrast to other people. Look at your view of success. And I want you to just for a moment to contemplate, is this very similar to the way that your parents looked at the world? Does it mirror the way that they were likely looking at reality? Or is it an exact rebellion from what they were? So again, I'll say another thing. My mother is an incredibly beautiful, loving person who I just adore. And one of the things I realized recently was that my father was the one that was really success-driven and success-oriented. My mom was more family-driven. And at the time, because I didn't adopt her quality of getting love from my family, I adopted more the quality of getting love from success, there was a part of me that unconsciously said, I'm never going to be like my mother that's just focused on love and family. I'm going to be focused on my business. And, again, this was not a conscious decision, and I'm not trying to judge anyone on any decision they make, but I recently became aware of the fact that one of the other reasons why I have always been so driven is that I've been rebelling against the way my mom was. That I was rebelling against her lack of success orientation and lack of drive, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I was rebelling. And as I've started to become aware of these patterns and these ways of operating in myself, I've realized that so much of the time in my life even, I haven't been operating from a place that is most authentic and most true, most aligned with the person I want to be. And as I start to have these dialogues with other people, I actually see the exact same patterns. I see that most of the things that we are doing today are either an adoption of the way our parents were, an adoption of our parents' viewpoint in the world, or they are a rebellion. They are something that we are rebelling against. So to start off, I would actually love to hear from you. If you can comment in the comment section, again, on enlightenedbusinessradio.com, at least once you enter your name and email address and get into the show page. Are you aware, just in this short dialogue, of something that you do? One pattern, one way of operating, one way of looking at the world that's either just like one of your parents, and spell out who it is, or that you can actually see that it's a rebellion from one of your other parents'. That there's something that you decided to be the exact opposite of, which in some senses is still actually like taking on your parents, because you're pushing all this energy to be very different and very unique rather than to find what's true for you. Rebellion is just like, well, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be the opposite of that. But that may actually not be what's true to you, who you really are, what's most alive in you. And so that's actually, sometimes it's hard to see this. And it's also hard to see how this influences our life, how this influences our business. And as an example, for me, as I've been realizing this, one of the patterns, one of the many, is this need to stand out, this need to be seen, this need to be recognized as the center of attention. And how is that negatively impacting my life? Well, in an industry that's about being an authority, you might think, well, that's a very positive thing. It makes you be bold. It makes you be, it makes you stand out in the world. And there's a positive quality to that. But the negative quality of that, and the negative quality of always needing to be seen, is sometimes that interferes with actually what's most effective. That interferes with what's most strategic. That interferes with ways that you could collaborate that might actually provide better and bigger results. And as I look at that, I can look back now on my business career and see all sorts of missed opportunities, all sorts of ways that my unconscious desire to be the center of attention has actually cost me hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in great opportunities, because in my mind, and again, this is all happening unconsciously, but if it's not going to be about me, then I don't want to do it, right? And so as you start to become aware of those patterns, you can then make decisions based upon really what's most true and what's most alive for you. So one of the surprises, I have many today to share with you, but one of the surprises I wanted to do is to actually speak to a few members of the tribe and have this dialogue to unveil it, not only so that you can hear and see how this is playing out, but how also you can see how much power there is in bringing awareness to this particular conversation and figuring out where you authentically land versus where you've actually just been operating out of these very conditioned patterns that we adopted from early on. So, Maki, are you there? Are you able to speak with me about this very real concept?
Sure. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for joining me and us. Welcome to the show. Very glad to have you here.
So go ahead. I'll follow your lead.
Yeah. So first, what's your business? Let's start there so we can get a gauge of how this has been playing out.
Well, I'm in the process of still clarifying it, defining it, and going through the exercises from your training, the early modules.
Okay.
And but I would say if I was to put an easily understood label on it, would be sort of life coaching.
Okay.
Helping people move through, really deep transformational shifts.
All right, good. So, one of the things that I always notice about, anybody that's starting their own business is that in the beginning, you get into this figure it out phase and this experimental phase, which again, isn't a bad thing, but there's also usually a certain amount of programming. There's a certain condition that's happening in your mind, usually unconsciously, that's preventing you from experiencing almost immediate clarity and immediate results. So that might sound a little confusing to you because you're the one that's in it, but let me show you what I mean. So you say you're trying to figure it out, and if I was to just tell you for a moment to put aside all of the feeling of whether this is right or wrong for the business or whether or not this is something that's going to be profitable or lucrative, if you were to tell me with a level of certainty what you believe you're here to do for people, what would you say?
Okay. I'm a way shower in that through my own experiences and the lessons I've learned in how I live my life presently, I find that people are inspired to examine their own lives and find their own path. And I feel I'm here to hold space, perhaps give some guidance, and really primarily be an inspiration. And to provide a different perspective. So, there's stories about how we understand our lives and what happens. I wouldn't say lives, that sounds so broad. I mean, let's just talk about what happened today, right? Whatever story that is, and is it one that builds you up or holds you back? So the way that I think seems to be a little different from others, and it has an uplifting quality. So that's what I think I'm here for. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me ask you this question. So here's what I'm hearing underneath this, right? There's a part of you that sounds a little afraid to claim the boldness of that, right? And that's why you use words like, I'm here to just be an inspiration, or I'm here to hold space for people. And there's a lack of certainty and a lack of boldness in that. And so let's go deeper. So that's what I'm picking up on in this dialogue. So let me ask you this question then, so you can start to bring some attention to this.
Right.
Talk to me for a moment about mom or dad. Was mom? Were they both in your life growing up?
Yes.
And did you have a relationship with both of them?
Yes.
Okay. So was mom, let's talk about each of them for a moment. Was mom bold or really soft?
Mom does not have a clear self-identity, and so I'd probably say soft and kind of, not really present.
Yeah. Okay, good. Dad, and then dad, hard or soft?
Definitely more hard, bold, present, visible.
Right. Okay, good. So this is where the push-pull oftentimes starts, right? Because what usually happens is on one side, we have one parent who's demonstrated something that we may or may not like, but it gives us value in certain ways and doesn't give us value. And then we have another parent who demonstrates something that, again, has some value and has some not value to it, right? So here we have, and this is my experience in this whole industry, your case is not uncommon. You have people who have this kind of blend of genuine, heartfelt desire with that intention. Genuine, heartfelt kind of caring, with the desire to be bold, but actually not falling squarely on either side, which can be fine, but it can also just make it sound kind of mushy. Because on one side, I don't want to be too strong like my father, but I don't want to be too soft like my mother. So now I'm just in limbo.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I can. I'm not sure. I agree with you about not fully standing in and owning and therefore being more bold about it. I think it's, I know exactly what my, that deep underlying need is. You said yours was to stand out.
Yeah.
And mine is to be understood.
Uh-huh.
And that really holds me back because I overanalyze and think, and I wonder if I am really communicating the clearest and simplest message and service, because I'm always thinking about myself and whether I'm understood or not.
Right, of course. Right?
Yeah.
So again, if we take it back, so why did you form this thread of wanting to be understood?
Because I wasn't seen.
By?
I was insignificant in the sense that I had a very a father who is very self-involved.
Right.
And then a mother who was emotionally irresponsible.
Right.
And so I was kind of, and I'm an only child.
Right.
And I had no reality check on anything.
Right.
So yeah, it's sort of this. I didn't really matter. Each individual parent had their own set of issues and dramas going on, and I took on a lot of responsibility between the two of them because they couldn't. They weren't there for me as parents. I couldn't rely on them.
Right. So there's this thread, right? This whole time, which is kind of like, I'm not understood. I'm misunderstood. Am I being understood? I want to be understood. Mm-hmm. Right? And as a result of that, the truth is you've probably been saying that to yourself for decades, right? Mm-hmm. Consciously or unconsciously. And the great thing about this particular dialogue is, one, when you can identify it, and this is the great thing actually I'd love for everybody to do right now on the phone, is recognize what is that thing that you've been consciously or unconsciously, usually it's unconscious, and so I'd like to ask you how you even got to the point where you could say I'm misunderstood, of identifying it. And once you can start to identify it, you can also start to realize, as you just so beautifully said, it's been holding me back, right? It's been holding me back. Like if you were to articulate, and here's the second part of it, to actually put a voice to how and why it's been holding you back. So if you were to put a voice to it with a level of courage to just be really direct and honest, how has this desire to be understood as the primary driver of your being, how has that actually been hurting your life?
That's your next question?
Yeah.
Okay. In a couple of ways. One, I tend to reiterate things, which makes me a bore.
Uh-huh.
Or just people are like, Mackie, chill out, right? So I'll go over and over again. I'm seeking assurance that I have been understood in the way that I wish to be.
Uh-huh.
So that's one thing. And that can lose people quickly because it's really about me, right?
Right.
Another way is it's kind of related to a pursuit of, I guess, perfection and sort of reworking my communication materials over and over again, so that, really what I should do is just throw it out there and go, hey, did you get what I'm saying? This is what I meant. And then get the feedback. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I won't, and I'll keep it to myself. So that's another way.
Right.
And those are very sort of very tangible ways, I think.
Right.
of how it holds me back. And a lot of it, and a third one is an intensity, I guess, sort of a forcefulness of, and not letting. I've had to learn to respect that people have certain bandwidth for this sort of deeper connection and processing, and not everybody. There's a time and a place. And in the past, I've really been willful about pushing through on my agenda to be understood. And I have learned and continue to, as I open my circles to more people, that to respect the boundaries of others.
Yeah, but you can even feel that kind of, there's a real push-pull in that too for you, right? Because you can almost hear it in your voice of kind of like, I'm not understood by these people, so I'm going to pull myself back. You know, I'm going to find a way that fits into what's comfortable for them. And, you know, it's a form of muting. I'm very aware of this because I've been actually aware of how much I've muted myself over the years as well. And so here's what's fascinating about all this, right? Like, what my hope is that first everyone who's also listening on the line right now is going through their own process of uncovering at the moment, one, what is this core, you can call it a story, but you can also call it a decision. You know, for you, your decision is, my decision is to always focus on trying to be understood. You know, I am going to make being understood a priority of mine. You know, the decision I made is I'm going to make standing out to be a priority of mine in my relationships, in my business, in my work. You know, what is that core decision that was made as usually a rebellion from our parents? And then the second thing is to really start to look at not just the surface level. So when I mean the surface level is, you know, surface level is I can see how I'm stopping and starting projects. That's really clear in terms of a circumstance. A deeper thing of stopping and starting projects is I'm never allowing myself to be successful. You know, I'm never allowing myself to share my gifts with the world. That's the underlying deeper sense of actual pain, because starting and stopping, while it's annoying, it's not actually very painful. But when we look at the repercussions of what these things mean, what we're really saying, the honesty of it all, it usually feels pretty intense, you know? And what I've been noticing is that for better or worse, and it is for better, but you must be willing to do it, part of the key process of real transformation is to deeply and fully acknowledge how much the current way of being is painful. You know, really feel it and acknowledge it. Because I've always had this saying, but now it's more prevalent than ever, which is that we don't change until we suffer enough. And most people are not allowing themselves to suffer enough, even though they're craving change, right? Right. So as you've been talking through this, I can feel the energy that you're in. It's kind of like, it almost feels a little bit like a 2x4 when you start to see it more clearly, right?
In what way? Like being whacked? I don't understand. What do you mean by it feels like a 2x4?
It feels
heavy?
like, yeah. Well, it feels like something's hit you in the face of just like, you know, for me at least, I could see when I really acknowledged how this need to stand out has been hurting my life in all these different ways. I felt really, I just felt really sad. That's the truth of it all. You know, like I allowed myself to feel really, really sad looking at how this experience that I'm having is based in almost an unconscious desire to prove something that's not even that actually important to me today. You know? Right? And that's what I find so interesting about these things. Like, you know, let me ask you if this is true for you as well. Is it Maki or Mackie?
Either.
Okay.
That's good. You're okay. Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you if this is true for you. When you really look right this moment at your desire to be, to be heard, or your desire to be understood, does that authentically fall at the top of your list of what feels important to you?
No. No, because I recognize it as it's kind of like it's a child need of mine. It's that part of me that, and now that I've brought it to consciousness, I can recognize it as such. And so the other part of me that wants to create and to show up in the world boldly, I've separated the two because it is now in my awareness consciously, right?
And what you just said was the perfect words. It's childish.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to another client, a high-end client, yesterday. And he was saying, I have this tendency to always try to push people harder, like to push them to get results. And it doesn't feel very good to me, and it doesn't actually even feel very good to them, but I can't find myself stopping doing it. And I said, have you ever contemplated that it's actually just that little boy in you that's like rebelling? Like, go harder, push harder. And, it's like the moment I said it, and you even said it too, it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's really childish.
Yeah.
It's like that childlike part of us that's screaming for our attention. And so let me ask you this question, Maki, because I'll share with you what I do. So how do you handle that? So now you can say that you're aware of this part of you that's childish, and you're aware of this part of you that's new. How are you handling that then? What are you doing to make sure that both parts are being fed with the right amount of love?
I like that last part, that both are fed with the right amount of love. Well, simply something like you said, that it's not really that important today, in this moment, that the ability to recognize that and literally pull that sentence out. I just wrote it down. You said it. I wrote it down, and I find this great power in taking something you like and writing it and having it visible as a cue, a visual cue, right? So that's a way, and those words, specific words, and just reprogramming my mind to start to automatically think in that way, that, hey, the emphasis is not on, I need to be heard, I'm striving for this and that in the child side, but the adult side saying, okay, I know that's there, but really in the big picture, and I'm capable of acknowledging and valuing this now, that it's not that important, and I can attend to that, right? So that's one thing.
Yeah. So that's good. Let me give you a completely different approach altogether.
Okay.
Here's one of the things that's fascinating about adults, is that we have put all of our emphasis and our focus on being adults now, being responsible people, being successful people, being accomplished people, being bold people. And yet, I think when we get down to it, we're all aware of the fact that there is this kind of rebellious, emotional, sensitive little person inside of us that's screaming for attention. So there's a part of you that is screaming, I want to be heard, I want to be understood. And yet your solution, which is like all of our solutions, is to say, yeah, I get you, but here's the deal. which is not really actually giving it what it wants. Right? And so the alternative approach is to actually allow yourself to give it a voice.
Yes.
Allow yourself to let it be heard. So for me, when I start to feel it flare up, I'll be like, oh, I hear this part of myself that's wanting to be seen. How do you want to be seen? Great. Let's have a little dialogue. And, it sounds kind of funny, but I'll have a conversation with myself. All right, so you're wanting to be seen. Like here, I'll give you a really funny example. This is kind of embarrassing, but I'll let it out. So I've started doing this dialoguing with all parts of myself. There's, you have this little emotional child, you have a body, you have a spirit, you have an intellect, you have all these different parts of yourself. And what most people don't realize is that all of them have needs and have an expression that's trying to be heard. So this is so embarrassing, but I guess I'll just say it. I had a streak when I was like a teenager where I was really I was kind of a heavy partier, and I drank a lot and I did a lot of drugs, and I was really into this kind of dark scene. And then I got into this very spiritual scene, and I was a meditation teacher, and I, became really pure and really sensitive. And recently I've been trying to kind of find this like authentic place, because both of them were rebellions. Like being the party drug goer was a rebellion from my parents, and then being this all spiritual person was an adoption of my parents. And it's not that either one of those is bad, but I'm trying to like find this authentic place where I live. And so I've started experimented with like having a beer or going out to like a not so healthy restaurant. And it's a funny thing, because even now as I'm saying that, my mind wants to go, don't do it. Like I'm so programmed to be like, no. But I'm trying to just explore something outside of this conditioned response. And so last night, me and my partner Mandy, we were saying, let's go out and get some dinner. And this like rebellious little boy in me was like, let's go get a beer. Like that was honestly what my rebellious little boy wanted to do. It's like, let's go get a beer. And then my body was like, no, you are not going to do that. It's bad for you, And then my mind like kind of came in and was like, look at you guys. You're like fighting without even knowing what's true today. And so in that moment, I actually asked all these parts. I said, all right, body, what's true for you? And my body kind of said, literally my body out loud said, well, you know that alcohol is not good for you. And you know that if you drink alcohol, you're not going to feel good. So you shouldn't do it. And then my little kid was like, but I want to do it. I want to go out and do this thing. So how do we come to a truce? And I had this little dialogue between my body and this little emotional child. And the truce I came to is, you should go out and satisfy this emotional child that wants something, that in this case wants a beer. And the body can actually just consciously drink water throughout the entire process and make sure you don't go to bed until you've flushed it all out of your system and you've hydrated and everything else. And, I had a great time. I mean, it was such a silly, stupid little example, but it was a great example of giving a voice to the different parts of us. And rather than just ignoring, this part of us, allowing it to have a voice. And by doing that, my body actually felt fine. My little child got a chance to express itself. My mind got to make the logical decision, and all the parts of me were allowed to come out in authentic, true fashion today. And so I've just been noticing more and more how the more common response is to do what you said. Just to, I want to ignore this part of me. I'm just going to put emphasis on this other part of me that I've deemed more significant. But if instead of doing that, we can actually start to give a voice to these different parts of ourselves, the great thing is that, one, it's a lot more creative an exercise. Two, it brings you right back to what's really true now, what's authentic for you now. And it gives you the opportunity to have new experiences. And as we all know, what we're all craving in life, what brings richness and aliveness to our life and to our business, is new experience, right? New financial experience, new success experience, new emotional experience, new experience, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to, encourage you to not push it aside or ignore it, to actually give it a voice. And notice when you start to do that, that you're no longer shutting off this part of you that actually has been screaming for attention for a long time and has not been getting it externally, right? Because we don't get it externally. We get it by meeting it internally anyways. Does that make sense to you, Maki?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know what you're speaking about. And I'm just curious with your story because I didn't follow. Did you actually have the beer and then a lot of water?
It's exact. I went out and I had a beer sampler nonetheless. I had, a series of very tiny little beers, but that is what I did.
And the part was recognizing the consequences of it and taking a responsible action.
Yeah, and also breaking free from this, it's an identity. Even being healthy is an identity, right? I'm going to be super healthy. And I've just been evaluating of recent the ways in which I have created identities based upon rebellions from my child or adoptions from my parents. And it's not to say, being healthy is clearly a fantastic thing. and I'm still continuing to plan to be one of the healthiest people I know. But there's a part where we start to shut down the parts of ourselves, or the parts of ourselves that are not shutting down, they feel like they're sabotaging us. So like let's loop it back around to the example that you've brought forward around stopping and starting, right? So if you were to give a voice to the little kid in you, that part of you, the emotional side of you, that actually is trying to gain your attention, what would it be saying if you were to put a voice to that in that particular dialogue?
I'm not sure what you're referring to with the stop-start.
It's something you said. It's a pattern that you're in where you will start a project, but you won't publish it out into the world because you get into a perfectionist way of being.
Okay, yes. All right. So the child's part of me, what is the voice?
Yeah,
That's your question.
What's it say? What does it say to you about that experience?
I want to get it out now. I don't care if it's messy.
Right. Good. Right.
Yeah.
And
just give me lots of stage time. You know, for me, it's like I've been sitting on this blog thing forever. And so the child voice is saying, like, I need you, to create that platform for me so that I can keep dumping all my creativity there.
Right.
And messy's good.
Yeah. So when you say that out loud, what shifts in you?
Energetically, it feels quite lighter, and it feels there's a sense of sort of relief and a levity to it. It's like, hey, yeah, that's what I want, and that acknowledgement, right?
Yeah, right. It feels very acknowledging. Feels very much like you're being understood.
Yes.
Right. So that's my challenge for you specifically today is really hear that voice and then do it. Really hear that voice and then do it. It's surprising how much energy comes from doing what we actually desire. And I think we often misconstrue that because we feel afraid and anxious and uncertain and all those other things. I always believe, because of my own experience, that's the sign that it's perfect. I mean, people always kind of talk back to me about this, which is kind of funny to me. But, sometimes when things are too successful, you get really bored because you're just like, it's nothing new. It's nothing I haven't done before. Now it's just working. And the most enjoyable times is when you're actually stretching into something that you haven't done before. So go, right? So go. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. I really am grateful for your openness and your sharing. It was really beautiful and special, and I think really valuable for everybody listening as well.
I hope so. Thank you for your insights and guidance.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, Maki.
Bye.
So for all of you listening too, I would love to see you post a comment on the EnlightenedBusinessRadio.com portal. So again, enter your name and email and get access to that portal and post a comment. Let me know what is that underlying statement that you have become aware of that you're saying. What is the influence that's had on your life? And what is it trying to tell you? What you'll find is that going through that process that we just went through with Maki and getting clear on what that is and putting a voice to it and saying it out loud, as she shared, it frees up a lot of energy. It frees up a lot of resistance. And so what's really holding you back, it's only your own resistance. And why is it your own resistance? Because you're only giving a voice. You're only giving a say to one part of who you really are, which is usually just the mind. And the mind is usually not very aware of the other energies and patterns and things that are lying underneath the surface. Why? Because the mind just thinks it's perfect. Mind thinks that it's got everything all figured out. The mind thinks that it knows the answers already. Or the mind is just simply repeating the same thoughts that it's been thinking for, decades and decades and decades. So start to give a voice to these other parts of you. Start to become aware of the decisions that you've unconsciously made and how those decisions are influencing your ability to just show up, your ability to just get things done, your ability to stand in a place of value and certainty and confidence. And by doing that, what you will quickly find is that the blocks go away and you free yourself up to be that much more effective. So that said, I want to announce my next big surprise, which I think for many of you will be extremely exciting if it's something you've been searching for. And that is that on a pretty regular basis, I get asked for my one-on-one guidance and my one-on-one support. And one, I just don't usually have the time for it these days between the different businesses that I'm running. And also, I am in the higher class of fees. It starts at about $25,000 for a day of my time. But I'm going to be heading down to San Diego to lead an event in a few weeks in the middle of August. And so I got the idea from some of our Enlightened Entrepreneur Club members who will be joining us for this particular experience, where I'm going to do a private VIP day with just 10 people. And that is meaning that from morning until basically dinner time, me and 10 other people will sit down in a room together and we will just work through whatever is stopping you from accelerating your financial results. Whether that means that you need to flesh out a different positioning or brand or strategy, whether that's you need to find what needs to be removed to stand in your power and your value, whether that means you need to design a new marketing campaign and strategy, or whether you simply need to architect a bigger vision for your business that motivates you and excites you. 10 lucky people will get to join me in this private setting and essentially split the cost. So it's only $2,500 rather than $25,000. I believe 3 or 4 spots are already taken, which leaves 6 or 7. So if you would like to join me, the date is August 14th. It's in San Diego. It's a full day with just me and you and these 9 other people, where you'll get my undivided personal attention and also get to be in the room with this group. If you want to grab one of these final spots, go ahead and email Nicola, Nicola, Nicola at bigvisionbusiness.com. And I'll just say this, that if you have been feeling like things are taking way longer than you think they should, or you are not experiencing the kind of returns for the energy and time you're putting into your business, and you just know that it's time to shake things up and get a new level of clarity and direction to grow your business and your income, gosh, I don't know a better way to support you than spending an entire day privately with you in a room and just a few other people, especially at this amazing investment price. So Nicola, Nicola, Nicola at bigvisionbusiness.com, and the first 6 or 7 people that claim those spots will be the ones spending the day with me in San Diego. Now that said, I also want to invite you to share with me what you would like us to cover or address in future Enlightened Business Radio shows. So again, on enlightenedbusinessradio.com, you can post a comment, and what are the questions you're dying to know but maybe afraid to ask? People always ask the superficial strategies like, how do I get more Facebook followers? That's not really what you want to know. What you really want to know is things that are holding you back or things that are stopping you from moving forward. So I would love for you to go and post those comments on enlightenedbusinessradio.com. And if you love this show, please share it with your friends. We are doing this as a way to really connect and give back to this fabulous tribe that we are a part of. I think that's it for today. I think we'll end it there. I, as always, love your feedback and your comments, and if you want to give us a nice birthday gift, both Jeffrey and myself, go give us a nice rating on iTunes, which you can get to through the EnlightenedBusinessRadio.com portal. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope, more importantly than enjoying the show, you are able to more clearly see how some of the early decisions that you've made are actually what's holding you back. And that by bringing some conscious awareness and attention to what that's saying and giving a voice to it, that you can bring all parts of yourself forward and all aspects of you into your life and business, and that will free up a lot of your energy to simply be more effective. I hope that message landed with you today, and I hope that you are enjoying being a part of this incredible tribe of big vision entrepreneurs, all seeking to do such incredible things in the world. So let us know if you want to join me for this private VIP day. Please leave a comment. Let us know what's coming up next. And Jeffrey and I will be back together on the next radio show. And we will be inviting some new special guests as well, which will be very exciting. So make sure to check back in and listen to the next show. And again, all the great stuff happens over at EnlightenedBusinessRadio.com. Thanks for your time, everybody. Have a fantastic day. We will talk to you again really soon. All my love.
Subscribe.